industry lately. So just to go ahead and get started. You may have seen that A24 is going to be partnering with Google's DeepMind. So they made their own AI partnership. They have said that this is going to be a research partnership and not using generative AI. That's kind of, their way of trying to spin it, that it will be creator-led, as opposed to taking away jobs from artists, which has been the big fear with AI anyways. But Google is investing $75 million to partner with A24. And I think, I've already seen a lot of backlash online of people that really came to A24 because they were such a creator-led community. They were the, prestige indie studio that was taking risks on young emerging talent. And you even have, with the recent success of Backrooms, with the YouTube filmmaker Caine Parsons. And, then everyone was talking about like, wow, these YouTubers like Curry Barker with Obsession, and people are trying to find, the latest, content creator, more or less, to kind of latch onto. These studios are coming over to the internet to find like what filmmakers and people they'll be investing in next. But something that a lot of people have pointed out is that Caine Parsons of Backrooms said he would never be interested in doing something with AI. And I think that's how in surveys, over 50% of people under the age of 30 feel about generative AI. So it's interesting that an indie studio like A24 is partnering, making this partnership for AI, but again, supposedly on a research basis and not generative AI, but in partnering with Google in order to make filmmaking tools. So we'll see. I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on that. What do you think of filmmakers and studios embracing AI? You definitely are seeing a lot more of it. Martin Scorsese was just in the news, as he is an investor in an AI filmmaking tool that he's using for storyboarding. So that's, of course, speeding up the process. And another one in AI news, if you saw this one, Michael Caine's AI voice is going to be used for the Odyssey audiobook. This is, of course, coming out just before Nolan's film premieres in July. And I thought this one was really interesting because I read that Michael Caine's voice will be used, but an AI-generated voice. And I was like, wait, Michael Caine is still alive, right? Like, he could do the voicing himself if he wanted. Then I looked up, Michael Caine apparently retired from acting in 2023. And I think this is really interesting. He's 93 years old. And to realize that if this is the way AI is going to be headed, where actors have never had this possibility before, where you hear about entrepreneurs all the time talking about creating like a content library, like a course or something, and then they sell it to have passive income. This is the first time I've seen anything like it, where an actor can have a body of work that then, of course, the AI models are being trained on it and can create a synthetic likeness of that actor's voice so that they can license out their voice and likeness to AI without doing any extra work. So they're still making money, but not doing the work. So what do you guys think about that? Like, it's a strange world. And I was talking with my dad. It's one of those that it kind of only seems to benefit those who have already made a name for themselves. And I wonder how people will be able to break into the industry when you have the big A-listers already kind of signing off that they'd be fine with their voice and likeness being used forever, even after they die. So you're like, will we just never get new actors or creatives ever? Like, where is this going? What do you guys think? I'd be very curious to know. But yeah, that is through the AI audio company 11 Labs, and it's about a 13-hour narration. What they were saying is it's able, of course, to keep costs down. They're able to produce a lot more than just his voice. It's a lot of sound design. I think they said there are like 20 characters. And previously, apparently last year, they did an audiobook with Judy Garland's voice, who, of course, has passed on. But that was to read The Wonderful Wizard of Oz in conjunction with Wicked for Good coming out to theaters. So obviously they're doing it with these big releases and kind of, I think, tapping into like a nostalgia factor, which is really interesting. But apparently, I think what 11 Labs is trying to do is build up, they're calling it like a library of characters. So Michael Caine would be like a character that you could then license the voice of. I'm not sure how I feel about this. You could get Judy Garland's voice to voice your project. Do we think this is cool or a little creepy? I mean, 11 Labs' whole thing is that the artists are being paid. So it is with their consent and with kind of, licensing contracts in place. But it is really interesting and just kind of crazy to think about how our industry is changing so rapidly. This was an interesting one. Hot Ones is expanding to Netflix. I'm excited about anything Sean Evans right now. Of course, everything happening with Keke Palmer, and we're supposed to, don't talk about it. Don't talk about that. Let them be. I'm a huge fan of that's happening, but it's honestly just amazing to see Sean Evans' career take off. Again, Hot Ones, a YouTube show with, First We Feast, being able to interview really A-list celebs, and it's become one of the most watched shows because Sean Evans is known for having these amazing, he does all the research and has these amazing questions that these people have never really talked about before. So it's a really fun concept, but apparently Netflix is going to be putting a streaming version on it on their platform. So again, it's one of those it's interesting to see how these streamers are starting to look at content over on YouTube. This is not the first time it's happened. I know a lot of, even like Mr. Beast had his Squid Games on Netflix, right? So a lot of the bigger creators are now being targeted by studios, by streamers to go ahead and just take the content that they're already creating and giving them a platform over there. So I think that's interesting. This is, of course, because YouTube has topped the Nielsen's TV viewing chart for nearly a year. So when you think about where people's eyeballs are the most, it's on YouTube, which is wild. But soon, it may be Instagram. This is an interesting one. Instagram may be making a play for long-form content. Have you guys heard about this? Yes, they are already attaching themselves to smart TVs. They're going to be launching with Samsung smart TVs. They're already on Amazon Fire TV and Google TV, but they're also testing out horizontal video, which is just wild because everyone went vertical video. Now they're vertical micro dramas, and now Instagram is pulling a 180 and they're going to be testing horizontal video again. They want to target long form creators because they know that YouTube has the most eyeballs and that people are enjoying that kind of long form content with their creators. So that's what Instagram is banking on next. I think it's really interesting. You guys let me know if that's something that would you watch long form content on Instagram? I don't know. I think people are into scrolling so quickly now. So that one's interesting to me. Toy Story 5 just came out. I haven't seen it yet. I'm very excited to go see it though, but that lands the biggest opening of 2026 so far. And apparently it's the second biggest animated debut ever behind Incredibles 2. It's also got great reviews, already made 160 million domestic, 312 million global. In other box office news, Obsession is still holding incredibly strong in week 6. It just crossed $200 million in the domestic box office, joining the likes of Sinners. So Obsession is doing really well. If you haven't seen that one yet, you definitely got to go see it. It lives up to the hype. I will say it that way. It's a very good film. Um, this is an interesting one. How about Don't Bite the Hand That Feeds You? Amazon MGM is walking away from a movie titled Artificial. This is the almost finished $40 million biopic of OpenAI CEO's Sam Altman, starring Andrew Garfield. So this is an almost completely finished film, and then upon screening of that film, Amazon decided they had to pull out of it. And people are saying it's interesting because of their ties to AI, and their ties to OpenAI. Same thing with Netflix, A24, Focus Features, and Warner Brothers Clockwork have also passed after screening the movie too. But they all, it's just interesting because apparently the film is putting Altman in more of a negative light, and now all these studios now have ties to AI. So it's definitely an interesting one. I was just talking about Obsession and how well Curry Barker is doing. Well, he's landed his third movie with a rich 8-figure deal, again at Universal and Blumhouse partnership. Obviously, his breakaway hit Obsession was with Focus Features, which is part of Universal and Blumhouse. He's already shot, it's already in the can, his second film, which is Anything But Ghosts. That one is not only going to be directed by him, but also starring him. And that's also with Focus Features. But the third movie has just been acquired. And again, 8-figure deal for Curry Barker. That's pretty insane. I also just heard him talking about he really loves Halloween Horror Nights. So I think it'll be very interesting to see if, I think it's probably too late in the game because Universal's already building out their houses and they've announced their houses, or a lot of them. Probably won't have a house for Obsession, but I do wonder, since Blumhouse does the Terror Tram, if we will see like a Freaky Nikki character roaming about in the back lot. That would be interesting. Would you guys be interested in seeing that with Obsession? But yeah, apparently Curry Barker's a huge fan of Halloween Horror Nights and goes every year. And so I think that would be really cool to see something with Obsession for that in September and October. A couple of other things of just like what's in development. Big news that Jim Carrey is in talks to come back for a sequel to How the Grinch Stole Christmas. That's going to be also directed by Ron Howard. The original one did shoot on the Universal lot, took up a lot of the sound stages, and if you go take the tour right now, you can see some of the cars from Whoville are on display over with the picture cars over by the Bates Motel and everything. So definitely check that out. It'd be really interesting to see if Jim Carrey is going to come back for that to be in the Grinch. Apparently he's in talks right now. So we will have to see about that. And it's interesting since Ron Howard's also doing another backdraft. So are directors just going back through their libraries and seeing what made the most money? I don't know. That's kind of an interesting one. You may have also seen Ben Stiller's teaming up with HBO, A24, and the NBA on a documentary series about the New York Knicks' history and championship winning season. People saw that Ben Stiller was front row filming things on his iPhone, and then he tweeted about it saying that, yes, this documentary is actually in the works, which I think is really cool. So we'll have to wait to see more about that. Apparently, he also went on a podcast talking about how he's going to be interviewing the players, and they're probably even going to be filming some going into next season. So maybe the turnaround won't be as quick as we would like on that, but expect a documentary series about the Knicks in the near future. And then lastly, I just want to talk about Seth MacFarlane and his Peacock partnership. He's done so many things with Peacock, like the Ted series, as well as the Burbs reboot with Keke Palmer and Jack Whitehall. He is now going to be doing Dungeon Crawler Carl, which is a fantasy series, also developing it for Peacock. So I'm really excited about that. I want to look into that more, but yeah. I hope you guys are all having a great week. Let me know what you think about all of this and where you think the industry is headed. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching. Take care.